right, gang. Well, happy to be here. Happy to speak with you guys. Wanted to talk about recession-proof marketing because I think what's happening right now in our industry is marketing budgets are flat right now, right? It's hard to gain additional revenue from your clients, prospective clients. That's what we're all here for, is to make a little bit of money. And then we'll describe some techniques that we can actually use to validate, prove, and I know what I'm talking about. I went to Columbia University, been working in advertising for about 10 years across several different agencies. Worked for brands like Sour Patch Kids, EA, Ubisoft, British Airways, you name it. And 2 years ago, I got laid off in the pandemic. Anyone else? No? Yeah? Hey. And I started this marketing firm just from connections, have worked in advertising a long time. And now we operate a team of about a dozen experts to do strategic marketing solutions and then execute on that strategic promise based on those marketing solutions. And I live by the beach in Venice, if anyone is around there. So some of our clients, all media and tech. So if you guys have worked with any of these, Scopely is a big gaming brand, Loop TV, a streaming service, IPG, big holding company. We do consulting work from time to time with them. MOCEAN, The Fifth, two big creative studios out of Fox and different studios here in LA. And then some initial startups and venture capital funds, which I'm really excited to work with, because that's where the most fun marketing can get done, because you're working with new companies that are always trying to do new things, right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about, go through an agenda. So right now we'll just be talking about macro marketing factors affecting our industry. 2, understanding the core problem of advertising, so how to solve that for your clients. 3, understand how the scientific method can actually be used in effective advertising. 4, how to apply the scientific method in your advertising in order to prove effectiveness. And 5, just some case studies, real-world successes in the Q&A. And if you guys have any questions, I'm big on interaction, so feel free to ask. So, macro conditions trump individual performance. This is a famous quote from an economist. But what does this mean? That means if you guys have a business, no matter how good the business is, if the macroeconomic conditions are shit, your business isn't going to do as well as it could, right? So what are we seeing in the macro marketing economy right now? So marketing spend is actually flat across the board for most channels, right? So what we see, this is from a study done by Dentsu. I used to work for Dentsu way back in the day. Casey did too back there. This is a really great study because it actually shows the channel growth, right? So you see television, print, out-of-home, audio, cinema, and digital. And you can notice the only one growing is digital, right? All the other marketing channels are flat. So digital is projected to increase by about 8% this year, right? Digital now accounts for 60% of the marketing mix, right? So if your marketing is $100,000, $60,000 of those $100,000 goes to digital channels, right? And then the advertising spend has only grown by about 3.3% this year. So that's the slowest growth we've seen since the pandemic, right? So basically what I want you to take away from here is marketing organizations are flat, except incremental growth in digital. Otherwise, you're not going to get a lot of incremental spend from your clients, right? So that kind of necessitates you proving more and more effectiveness because these are the realities of the macro market. Now, enterprise B2B budgets. This is a great graph. This is from Gartner Budget and Survey. This actually shows B2B spend as a percentage of revenue, right, from a total brand. So this is the average percent of revenue that people spend on marketing, right, as a percentage of their total revenue. So you can actually see the graph from 2017. Typically, we're about 10%, right? So that's $1 in $10 goes to your marketing budget, which might be a lot of marketers here, right? What happened here, right? COVID, anyone remember it? No. And then we have a slight recovery to about 9.5%, right? And now, because of oscillations in marketing, all of it being flat, we're actually see a slight decrease. So now it's less than $1 in $10 being spent on marketing, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. Maybe higher interest rates, there's less money in the market right now. And Investors are prioritizing profits rather than future growth. Obviously, future growth impacts marketing budgets a lot. Difficult talent market, lagging digital transformation. So if you actually can't, that's an interesting factor, because if you can't track and understand the effectiveness of your digital marketing, which we just learned is the biggest marketing channel, how can you justify that spend, right? And then slower B2B recovery since COVID, right? So a little less flat. So here's the big takeaways. So what does this mean for marketers and marketing in general? Digital is the only area in marketing growth, right? All the other marketing channels are flat. So you can enter those channels, but there's no upside for you, right? B2B total marketing spend hasn't recovered since the pandemic. And then 3, advertising is flat across all industries, so only incremental growth. So, any questions so far? Thoughts, comments? No? All right. So, in a world where marketing spend is under scrutiny, how do I know my advertising is working? Right? Has anyone heard the famous quote, I know 50% of my marketing is working, I just don't know which 50%? Anyone? Yeah? Yeah. So this is how to understand which 50% of that marketing is working. So you don't know what marketing is working until you prove it, right? That's the only way to know marketing spend is effective. So want to pivot here really, if anyone remembers their 8th grade science class, where we studied the scientific method, the scientific method requires 3 things. 1, a hypothesis. So this is an assumption about the consumer in marketing. So if I'm a chip brand, I say, I think these chips are for teenage women or young men. I'm making a hypothesis about this chip brand, right? 2, an experiment, which is a marketing campaign, right? I'm gonna run a marketing campaign and see if it works. 3, agreed upon metrics that you can prove whether your hypothesis is correct or not, right? That's all the scientific method is. So, how do you apply the scientific method to advertising? I'm a big fan of potato chips and Dua Lipa, so I'm going to use this as a case study. So 1, create a hypothesis, right? There's 5 steps we're going to go through. 1, form an assumption about your target consumer, right? So kind of think in your head right now, who's the target consumer you're trying to reach? Form a consumption about them, right? So if we're a potato chip brand that we're trying to reach Gen Z customers, we can collect data to form an informed hypothesis about our target consumer. So this is, all right, we know Gen Z loves TikTok. Their top music is hip hop music or pop music, and 77% of them snack once per day, right? Therefore, we can hypothesize that a hip hop artist like Dua Lipa and advertised on TikTok will sell chips, right? That's our hypothesis. So design a campaign. So I think the crucial element here is really the advertising campaign should only tell us, does Dua Lipa sell chips, right? Every marketer out here wants to know impression data and clicks and percentages and everything like, right? I have tons of clients asking me for tons and tons of data. Really, it doesn't matter, right? And for those of you guys in the back, please come on. We got some seats in the front. Please join us. We only know incremental sales lift and the campaign we're running, right? So if you're a company and you have sales and you have marketing campaigns in the field, you should be designing your campaign so you can actually isolate and test different variables in your marketing, right? That's how you design a campaign. So, test the prediction. This is the easy part. You run the campaign, you got Dua Lipa slinging chips, right? Does it work? The campaign's running, right? After the campaign runs, you only need to collect the necessary data that is relevant to test that first hypothesis, right? So your impressions, there's impressions, clicks, engagements, retweets, hashtags, GRPs. None of them answer the question, did Dua Lipa sell a bag of chips, right? The only thing that matters is incremental sales lift during the campaign, right? So if you see a sales lift while your Dua Lipa ad is running, Dua Lipa sells chips. If it's flat, no effect. If it's down, then Dua Lipa and chips do not go well together, right? It's super simple, right? Any questions so far about analyzing results or designing a campaign so far? Yes, one question.
Might be later, but like a longer sales cycle.
Yeah, longer. So
The campaign runs and then months later.
yes. So a longer sales cycle, she asked. Good question, because not every company is a CPG company where you might have smoked a little too much weed and you're grabbing a chip from your bag, right? So a good example is Creativ Strategies. We have a year-long sales cycle, right? Our clients are massive media studio companies. So we actually won't close a sale until maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, right? Sometimes longer. To do that, you can actually plan out your a year in advance. So for example, one activation we're doing is branding this big stage, having a booth at the B2B Marketing Summit, right? We can calculate leads from the B2B Marketing Summit, but as we do campaigns from year to year, we can actually understand what has changed from year to year in order to analyze what has worked, right? So say we do the B2B Marketing Summit this year, right? We analyze the effect. Next year, we might not do it, right? And I'll kind of get how to kind of parse it out in reality, but that you can use for longer sales cycles and figure it out. Yes, sir.
No, you don't measure retweets, hashtags, and clicks. That's part of your process, right?
Yeah, you could still capture this data, right? But you could say, hey, our brand awareness increased. Yeah.
But how do you know if they actually, if those sales go up, that it actually is from that?
Yeah, so that's because you are controlling for all the other marketing activity out in the field, right? So I'll get to that question a little bit later because it's a good point. So the question was, how do I know it's from Dua Lipa and not some other marketing activity? But I have a slide coming up. All right, and finally, measure success. I think this is really hard for agencies and brands to do because this requires honesty, right? Did it actually work? I have been part of agencies all my life. Even if it's the worst campaign, we still put lipstick on the pig and say, oh, it's the best campaign you guys ever run. Oh, give us more money, let's run it again, even though it might have no incremental sales lift at all. An honest agency, an honest partner would say, hey, this didn't work, let's try something else, right? Because we know as marketers and brand marketers that a hypothesis could be right, it could be wrong, right? We go into the campaign with an honest assumption about what could work and what could not work, right? So, really, was one kiss all it takes? Dua Lipa fans? No? An incremental sales lift confirms your hypothesis or denies your hypothesis based on whether you see sales lift or sales decrease or flat sales. Now, just reviewing it, and then I will get to your questions, sir. So 5 simple steps to test a hypothesis and prove marketing effectiveness. 1, create a hypothesis about your consumer. In our case, does chip buyers like Dua Lipa? 2, design the campaign. So to kind of answer your question, you design the campaign so you can isolate different marketing activity so it doesn't compete with other marketing activity. So you might add a new element and then see if that new element added to the chip sales. Does that make sense? Or take away an element, right? That's in the campaign design because you're trying to control, keep everything the same and add or subtract new elements in your marketing campaign. 3, test the prediction. That's just running the campaign, right? 4, analyze the results. Analyze the data that you were trying to measure the hypothesis. And then 5, understand whether your campaign was successful or not, right? And then rinse and repeat. And you can see if you run this enough and if your brand has longevity over 5, 10, 15 years, you will really know what works, right? Some of these brands, Home Depot is a great example. They run college football every single year. Why? Because they tested it, blew them out of the water. Now they sponsor the entire college football season every single year, right? So that's an example of a campaign that worked, and then they can double down on it, right? So rinse and repeat, and this cycle continues until you get to a really ideal marketing mix. So, proving marketing effectiveness using the scientific method. How do we do this? So this answers your question. So, 1, test different channels by blacking them out, right? So P&G did this. They stopped all their programmatic advertising on a specific brand for a whole year. So they didn't buy a single banner ad. Do you guys read about that? You know what happened? It didn't affect their sales at all. It was tens of millions of dollars that they were just wasting, right, on banner ads. Yes, sir. So they were tracking it, right? They were tracking clicks and impressions, right? But they were also tracking sales, right? And the reality of marketing is you can track, clicks to your website, but if you're a CPG company that most of your sales happens in store, it's kind of divorced from your digital marketing efforts, right? So really the only way they could effectively test it is by blacking it out. So if this is your marketing mix, you can cut off TV, right? Say you don't advertise on TV for 6 months to a year, right? Then you will know if TV is an effective product, right? You will know definitively because you have blacked it out and you can measure your sales lift, right? Or test new channels periodically, right? So maybe we do an experiential, maybe we do a pop-up at some event and test that, right? The idea here is we only change one element in the marketing plan at a time, right? So you know what is adding positive impact to your marketing mix and what is detracting from your marketing mix, right? To get to an efficient channel allocacy. So if you think of this as like $100,000, right? And this might be 50,000 on digital, 10,000 on experiential, 12 on out-of-home, print, audio, etc., right? Adding and subtracting these different elements will eventually come to an ideal marketing mix, and that's how you iterate and create better marketing, right? And then obviously analyze return on ad spend as you add or subtract each channel to measure, analyze, improve effectiveness. So want to turn to a real case study. So I scrubbed the client, but this is a gaming client that we work on. They do landing pages. So their key metric they're trying to land on are game downloads, right? So they run ad campaigns, they do landing pages, social media ads, search campaigns to actually drive downloads to their game. So these are actually real numbers from 3 different landing pages. So we mix and match characters, we write different copy. These are actually real numbers from 3 different landing pages. So we mix and match characters, we write different copy, it has the download button pretty prominently. So the first one is 8% conversion rate, right? And these are all landing pages that we designed, by the way. So I am comfortable going to the client and being like, actually, this one's kind of shit, mate. Let's stop running advertising on that one. This one's 13, oh, it's a little bit better. This one had a 20% download rate. So 1 in 5 people that landed on the page clicked download and said, I want to play this game, right? That is a big difference from 8 to 20%. And here's why. Because it is 240%, more than 240% delta between the lowest and the top performing landing page, right? That is 2.5 times as effective. So if you have $100,000 in media spend at just assume it's a $20 CPM, you get 5 million impressions, right? So that's 5 million people hitting your landing page, right? Only 10% of these impressions click the landing page. So you're getting 500,000 clicks to this landing page, right? With these different conversion rates, landing page 1 gets you 40,000 players, right? Landing page 3 gets you 100,000 players, right? So that is a scientific method of how to parse out different advertising channels, right? This is specific to landing page, but you could do it on creative in the field, advertising, clicks, a PR strategy, experiential, whatever. But this is a very robust, clear set example of how by testing, 12% difference drives 2.5 times more players download your game, right? And that's 2.5 times more media effectiveness too. So you're saving money on your media spend because you would have to spend 2.5 times the amount of money to get the same amount of players with the first landing page. So this is why marketing budgets love advertising science. This is from an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but you can see they work together, right, to improve your marketing efficiencies in the market. You increase the efficiency of your spend, increase the conversion rate, increase the downloads. I highly, highly recommend you guys embrace advertising science in your marketing. Thank you. You guys can find us at booth 1411 if you want to have a conversation. I'm the CEO, Wes Morton, and thank you for attending the talk.